Let me ask you something. Are your contracts actually legally legit, like rock solid, airtight, ready for anything legit? Because if you've ever had that uh-oh moment before hitting send on a contract, or worse, after something goes sideways, you're not alone, and I have your back. I'm Paige, your go-to small business attorney and founder of The Legal Page, where we make contracts make sense and actually protect you. Now listen up. Our biggest sale of the year on contract templates is just around the corner. And if you want early access, special bonuses, and all the legal tools your business needs to stay protected, you've got to get on the list. So just head over to tlpinsider.com and pop your name in. That's how you'll get the inside scoop before anyone else, plus some fun surprises I only share with my email crew. Again, that's tlpinsider.com. Alrighty, let's get into this episode. Let me take you back real quick. Like 15 years ago, I was sitting at a photography workshop. I was running my photography business, really hungry to learn. I was trying to soak up everything. I was still in law school. And during one of the workshop sessions, we had a guest speaker. It was a photographer that was pretty well known in that area and region. And he confidently stood up and was like, well, I actually don't take final payment until after the wedding because I usually get a bigger tip that way. And I just remember sitting there being like, wait, what? Even back then, before, I finished out law school, before the Legal Page, before I had done probably like 100 weddings at that point, I think I was new. I'd maybe done a couple. I just knew in my gut that that was a truly terrible idea. I didn't have the legal language quite yet or legal knowledge to explain why, but I knew that really you should never put yourself in a position where you've delivered the work and then you hope someone pays you afterward and you hope the tip is bigger. Because here's the biggest thing that I've learned. Hope, it's not a strategy, not a business strategy, especially when it comes to money and getting paid. And now, after years of legal training and helping thousands of business owners protect themselves through better contracts and legally making sure everything's buttoned up on the back end of their business, and going into my Facebook group and asking this question to them, I can tell you with full confidence that you should never show up to provide a service if you haven't been paid. So in today's episode, I am going to get into why collecting final payment before the event isn't just best practice. It's like a legal boundary you have to have in place. Number 2, where to put this kind of thing in your contract. And then number 3, what can actually happen when you don't stick to the policy. And spoiler alert here, I asked my TLP community for real stories and did they deliver. And I'm going to get into them. I'm going to read them for you. So whether you are a wedding photographer, videographer, makeup artist, hairstylist, planner, DJ, cake baker, caterer, really anyone in the event industry, wedding and event industry, this episode is going to help you tighten up your contract language and make sure that you get paid before you show up. All right, let's get into it. Hey there, I'm Paige Griffith, your host, an attorney for small business owners, and the founder of The Legal Page. I help online businesses and creatives get legally legit in no time. In this podcast, I break down and simplify legal talk while providing practical business guidance every step of the way. With over a decade of experience in both entrepreneurship and the law, think of me as your go-to legal resource, here to tackle all those what-if scenarios so that you can focus on what you do best, growing your business. As a gentle reminder and disclaimer, I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney, so be sure to seek legal counsel for personalized advice. Welcome to the Legally Legit Podcast. I want to first start off with the legal side of the final payment timing. So again, I'm going to reiterate here, you should never perform a service, especially for a wedding or a live event, without full payment in your bank account beforehand. Legally speaking, if you don't have clear language in your contract surrounding this and you show up without being paid in full, it becomes really hard to chase down that money after the fact if they don't pay you like they said they would. And I'm going to get into all the intricacies of like why that's just a bad idea day of, because there's so many other things going on. But the service, once you get there, is basically being rendered. And then when you're done, it's already rendered. So they've already gotten what they paid for. Even if there are deliverables after the fact, there's the service, the day of service that they really wanted has already been done. So unless you're a photographer or a videographer, you don't really have a lot of leverage for the final payment. And you do in the photography and videography world, but honestly, I just don't think it's a good idea. So here's what you want to put in your contract. In your fee and retainer clause, this needs to be the number one clause at the beginning of your contract. Break down what's due at booking. Usually this is the non-refundable retainer, and then when the remaining balance or balances are due. Sometimes it's in installment payments, and that's fine. And then the remaining balance should be due no later than X days prior to the event. And no services will be provided unless payment is received in full by that date. Don't show up. Don't show up if you haven't been paid. And then you will probably have some type of language in there that says like failure to pay on time or not adequately complying with this fee and retainer clause, so on. And so I'm not like giving you the actual legal language here, but that would equal a breach of contract. And it would give you the right to automatically terminate and cancel your services with no refund and retain all monies paid as liquidated damages. So you don't need to be aggressive in your fee and retainer clause. You just have to be firm, professional, and stick to it. Your fee and retainer clause and policy, it's not personal. It's just business, and every other business is doing it too. So all of this needs to be in your fee and retainer clause. Okay, so now real world examples. Like, why should you not do this? When I was prepping for this episode, I was like, I'm not going to regurgitate all these reasons behind why you shouldn't do it. So what I did is I popped into our TLP community on Facebook and I asked, why do you require final payment before the event? Give me some bad stories of what occurred or lessons learned along the way. And wow, y'all had some stories. So I want to go through a few of them together with you. Here's Colleen's story. She allowed a client to pay the day of. Her second shooter counted the cash, and then it came up short. And the bride claimed they had changed the package. And she had to decide 15 minutes before the ceremony whether to keep shooting or leave because she wasn't paid in full. Spoiler alert, she left. She left. And then she had this big lesson learned. Like, I am requiring payment 30 days out. I need to make sure my second shooter's getting paid and I'm getting paid. Like, the person was like, no, it's short because I decided to change my mind day of. And then she's like, peace, I'm leaving. Good thing she left. I think a lot of people would feel really bad. Like, I'm just discontinuing service of the biggest day of your life. But that was Colleen's story. Here's Crystal's story. She let the bride pay within a week, quote unquote, after the wedding. 4 years later, she still owed money. This Crystal gal delivered a teaser gallery, never got the rest of the payment, and then eventually revoked access to the teaser gallery. And now she's like, well, I had some leverage because I was a photographer. She didn't get her images. But, you know, like I did everything I needed to do and I still haven't been paid. And so now she puts in her new clause, like no payment equals no services. So that's like, that has to be in your fee and retainer clause. Here's what Michelle said. Michelle worked an 18-hour wedding day. I think I've worked like a 12 or 14. I've never worked an 18. And then she said only half of the contract was paid at the time. And she realized, though, that she had nothing to enforce, no leverage. And then she still had to pay her staff. She moved her payment due date to 1 month after the fact, because she was allowing them to pay after. She hasn't had an issue since, but an 18-hour wedding day, had to pay staff, and wasn't paid half of the contract. Ugh, bad. Here's Sarah May's story. Her client's payment didn't go through. And then Honeybook, her CRM system, didn't notify her for a full week, and that didn't work. So now she requires payment at least 7 days out, if not 30 days out, no exceptions. I love what Stephanie said too. She was like, I take payment before because the wedding photography is a service and therefore the services can't be rendered until paid in full. That's my take on this. And she's like, I also want people to feel like they can party without having to worry about bills after the party's over. And then she said the only time that I would take payment after the wedding is in the case of added coverage the day of the event. And then she would create like a second invoice for additional hours the next day. We agreed in the contract the rate what the additional hours would be. And now I am not delivering any deliverables that are digital until that final invoice is paid. Love that, Stephanie. And then Kaylee said, always 30 days before, absolutely no exceptions. She's like, it is so awkward to shoot someone's wedding and then have to ask for the final balance or chase down the parents of the bride or the parents around the reception only for them to have forgotten their checkbooks, and then you don't get paid and you're leaving without getting paid. Joe said, back when I first started out in college, I did 3 equal payments, one at booking, one day of, and then one upon final delivery. First off, having people pay you the day of is stressful for everyone. Someone has to keep track of the check. It's just another thing for the couple to be worried about. And then she said, I did have one time where a client never made final payment, and a dad called then complaining about a bunch of random stuff that I didn't really understand. But she was 22 and she was just sort of stunned. She didn't even know what to fix. She was a videographer, and she said like basically I just got screwed. And they didn't respond for a month. I had to send another follow-up email. They finally responded saying that they thought they had already paid in full. And that, then they started making excuses. They lost their job. They didn't have the funds. They needed some time to pay it. And it was 6 months that they didn't pay. And of course she had leverage as the videographer, but ultimately crazy. Like, you have put in all this time and effort and work and you're still not getting paid. Here's another one from Alyssa. In 12 years of business, we have never had an issue with the 30-day balance due. Last year, one of our couple's parents, we previously did the other daughter's wedding with no issues, decided to do a partial payment at 30 days. They owed almost $4,000 the week of the wedding, and we told them and the planner that we were not traveling for their wedding unless they paid in full 3 days before. They dropped a check off at 11 p.m. the night as we left for the wedding. We showed up, everything was normal, but it was awkward. And we also, she just said it was bad. So in our contract, it's due 30 days prior. I had that experience. I'm not having it again. If they come back for daughter 3, we're changing our contract so that it's more upfront and the balance is due 60 days out. And we're going to enforce our late fees. I love that for you, Alyssa. Someone just said, like, I shot a wedding where I gave some grace and then I wasn't paid for 2 weeks after the wedding. Never doing that again. Someone else said, Audrey, the planner emailed me asking what the balance the couple had a week before the wedding. So I assumed they would be handing me a check day of. Since they didn't reply to my payment reminder, I figured they were just busy. On the day of the wedding, the couple left in a car, so I never got to talk to them, and the planner handed me an envelope thinking it was the payment, but when I got home, it was just the thank you card. Oh no. Lesson learned. I also like what Selena said. I would explain that the wedding day is already really high stress for a lot of families. It's time to focus on the couple, not the time to be dealing with finances, and point out all of the protections that are in place in your contract to cover them in the case of illness, injury, event cancellation, force majeure, if something happens to their deliverables. So if people are pressing on you that I don't want to pay until after, I want to make sure you actually show up, you say, no, that's not how this works. And you already have provisions in the contract that protect you from all those what if scenarios if something were to go wrong on my end, so that they feel really grounded and secure that they have rights and responsibilities in there as well for something that they paid for. I do just want to point out a couple others before we wrap up. I suggest legally that you always take payment beforehand. However, I had a couple people in here. Surprisingly, it was men. I don't know why. But I was like, is this coincidental? I'm not sure. But one guy said, I have my payment scheduled to take final payment for weddings and elopements 7 days after their event. And it's been that way for 10 years with no issues. And sometimes getting paid after the client sees me in action and also sends through a big tip as well. Interesting. Kind of similar to my experience with the photographer 15 years ago. And that's still happening. And I would say with male photographers. And then someone else said, we get balances day of in cash before we start. We tell them we're going to show up, give us the cash, 0 issues in over 6,000 weddings. That seems a little aggressive. I don't know if that's the truth. But I was like, okay, I'm giving it to you straight. This is what people said in our Facebook community. And it was very interesting. Okay, I'm going to go back to a couple. Sam said, I almost had a client like this. My mom wasn't comfortable, quote unquote, with the payment schedule. And they ended up walking. It's like way too risky for me to show up with a bunch of flowers. So she's a florist day of, and they can't decide if they want to pay. So true, Sam. Um, Rachel then said, I agree with what has been said about already reiterating the awkwardness of asking for money on the busy morning of a wedding day. Absolutely not after services have been rendered when they're drunk in the end of the night. I would kindly say that payment in advance is standard in the photography industry. Then reiterate the protections that they have in place if the photographer cancels. I would also invite like Wedding Wire, them to browse a long list of seller reviews from my past clients. And then just tell them, like, if you were in the habit of not showing up, you wouldn't still be in business. If you're working with a wedding planner on this one, I would ask for their backup as well. And then ultimately, if they still refuse and they don't like your payment schedule, kindly part ways. While I do know some photographers do take payment day or day of or even after the wedding before sending the final gallery, I would never personally do this. So yeah, just really, really interesting scenarios there that I wanted to touch on. uh, there's this is not fun. It's not fun to be stuck in that situation when you're there for hours and hours and hours standing. It's exhausting. You're providing the best services you can, and then I mean, for planners, it's like your planning is done. For hair and makeup artists, absolutely not. Like you need to get paid before you show up. Trying to navigate a bunch of bridesmaids payments day of is a total nightmare. I've heard that before with HMUA educators in the industry. DJs, same. Like, why would you perform any services day of? Because like your clock is ticking as you're going and you should already be being paid for those. Photographers and videographers, of course, I know you have deliverables that need to be made, but you're just opening up this can of worms for really crappy clients, so to speak, to come back at you and just nitpick things and not because they haven't paid and you're waiting for the payment. And now they're like, I'm not paying that full amount, blah, 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 blah. Like I have heard everything under the sun. Don't do it. So when a client says, we don't feel comfortable paying before the wedding or the event, we want to pay after, here's what you say calmly and confidently. This policy is in place to protect the both of us. It ensures that I can show up focused on your event without having to chase down payments or worry about finances on your big day. Once the service is performed, my ability to enforce payment is limited. So this protects my time and energy and ensures a smooth experience for both of us. You could probably add in some brand tone and voice there surrounding, you guys don't want to be dealing with payments day of anyway. You can also explain that it's industry standard. Most reputable service providers require payment in advance. It's not something you're willing to negotiate. Here's a few phrases that I would suggest that you keep in your back pocket. Payment is full and is required X days in advance to confirm my attendance. Due to past issues and in line with my contract terms, services are not rendered without payment in full, and I'm not going to show up. This ensures that I can show up 100% focused on your day and not deal with finances. If they still don't agree, just know it's okay to walk away. Boundaries protect you, and saying no is a good thing in these instances. It's better than chasing down unpaid invoices while you're still trying to recover from a wedding. It's still way better than not getting paid for 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. I have experienced all of it in the wedding and event industry, especially as a lawyer who you guys dish at me all of the bad situations you've dealt with. So here's what I want to leave you with. You deserve to be paid fully, clearly, and on time. You have put in the hours, the prep, the emails, the contracts, the travel, the gear. You've poured your talent into making this experience incredible for your clients. And the last thing that you should be doing is asking to be paid while holding a camera or a curling iron or putting together a bouquet. Like you need to be present and provide services to the utmost of your ability, excellence in every form. Require payment in full before the event, put it in your contract, fee and retainer clause needs to be buttoned up, and then hold that boundary like the professional that you are. Do not show up if you haven't been paid. Even if you feel really bad, it's fine. Your contract will protect you. Don't show up. Like I love how Alyssa said, they will pay you 11 p.m. beforehand if they know you're not going to show up. You're going to get paid. Don't show up if you haven't gotten paid. And you know that I like to leave you with something about contracts. All in all, you've got this. You know how to say no. and your bank account will thank you later on, and so will your emotions and your stress level. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. Be sure to visit thelegalpage.com for contract templates, blogs, and additional legal resources. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend or on Instagram with your favorite takeaway, and make sure you tag me at The Legal Page. Sharing is one of the best ways you can support the show. And if you've been tuning in for a while and you are finding value in these episodes, it would mean the world to me if you popped over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and left a rating and review. Hearing your feedback absolutely inspires me to continue creating podcast content. Lastly, you can join my free Facebook group at tlpfacebook.com, and this is where you'll get access to me, my legal team, and thousands of other entrepreneurs for unlimited business and legal Q&A. Until next time, my friend. Wait, before you go, please don't close out this episode just yet, because I need to make sure that you're actually legally protected in your business. Listen, if you're booking clients, delivering services, selling offers without a solid contract in place, you're basically building your business on sand. One bad client, one miscommunication, wait, I thought that was included, and poof, it can all get real messy really fast. That's where I come in at The Legal Page, where myself and other lawyers make legally legit contracts for small business owners just like you. Yes, that's right. It's written by actual lawyers who are experts in the field and not some AI bot, because let's be real, those will not hold up in court. I've reviewed them and they are awful. So here's the deal. We've got our biggest sale of the year coming up in just a few weeks. I'm talking a huge percentage off all contract templates and a la carte clauses and short forms and legal guides. And I'll give you some exclusive bonuses that I only give to my insider list. So if you want early access and a little legal love from me, go sign up now at tlpinsider.com. It's free, it's fast, and you'll be the first in line when things kick off with the sale. So don't wait till you're in a mess to get your contracts in order. Be proactive. Go to tlpinsider.com, pop your name on the list, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Okay, now you can close out the episode.